Okay, so as we know, what do we know about the hurricane season this year? Well, as we know, we got off to an early start with the subtropical storm Alberto was mainly forming just outside the official season on May 25th this year. So right now we are now in the middle of the season and there is not any major storms currently forming in this region. Well, as I speak, there is like a tropical storm, maybe a Category 1 hurricane forming just along the South Atlantic Ocean, not far off in the Gulf of Mexico. But at the moment, there's no current activity that is above 2 or 3. So at the moment, nothing too serious. However, Ronald Gordon, the climatologist, of the MET service, advised the public to be on alert and just to keep monitoring the situation, as same with meteorologists. So we know Ronald Gordon, climatologist from National Meteorological Office, said it has been a very quiet season, and we anticipate that to be the case because of the main factors that really actually helps to generate the hurricanes in a warm ocean. And we have noticed that the Atlantic in particular is actually colder than normal, so it has been quiet. So the major centres that predict hurricane formation have actually downgraded their forecasters for this season so far. So chances are less than you will have a hurricane impacting us. However, as I just said, the chance is not zero. So it's important to know the probability is not zero. That means there can still be a hurricane coming your way. And like we always say, regardless of it's an active season or not, if there is one major hurricane that hits you, it's likely to be active. So even though the predictions are actually coming down in terms of the amount, one storm potentially coming your way could be catastrophic for you and of course for us. Not mean by me, but generally that's just from what Ronald Gordon has said. Let's go some more facts and information from this year's hurricane season so far. We know it's been an ongoing event so far, with the annual formation of tropical cyclones in the Northern Hemisphere. So we know, as normal, the season officially starts on June 1st and ends on November 30th. These dates historically can describe the period each year with most tropical cyclones form the Atlantic Basin and are adopted by convention. So we know the tropical cyclogenesis is possible at any time of the year, as shown by the formation of subtropical storm Alberto, which occurred a week earlier than normal on May 25th, making the fourth consecutive year in which the storm developed before the official start of the season. The next storm, Beryl, became the first hurricane to form in the eastern Atlantic during the month of July since Bertha in 2008. So, with Chris's upgrade to a hurricane on July 10th, the storm became the earliest second hurricane in the season since 2005. So the season is the first since 1974 to see 4 subtropical storms. So as I speak, so far we've had 5 storms across the Atlantic. 2 of them were hurricanes, small ones. 2 of them were tropical storms. 1 of them was a subtropical storm. So first of all, we'll start with subtropical storm Alberto. It started on May 25th and concluded on May 31st. So it lasted for around a week. The peak was 65 miles per hour, 100 kilometers per hour. It only lasted for around a minute overall with the highest wind speed. The intensity was 990 millibars, so not a severe storm, but it was the fourth consecutive year in a row with that storm to occur before June 1st. Little damage occurred throughout that storm, although it mainly started across the southern Atlantic, migrated its way northward, so affecting parts of Louisiana, moving across Tennessee and dissipated around Michigan, and probably just became like a depression front across Ontario, which just brought in some heavy rain and strong winds. Then, after a whole month of June 2018 with no storms, early part of July, a hurricane formed, which was Hurricane Beryl, which was a Category 1 hurricane, which lasted for over 10 days from 5th to the 16th of July. So the peak was 80 miles per hour, around 130 kilometers per hour. It lasted for only a minute, but the whole length of the storm was so for 10 days. The intensity was 994 millibars, so again, not a major storm. And throughout that storm, it was mostly across the ocean, so most of the land dodged it. It did hit it through across parts of the Caribbean near Bermuda, but it lost the convection by the time it got there. So little damage occurred that day, but just it was a pretty interesting flow from across from near Africa on wherever it was formed. So across around Africa, it spreaded westwards, and now around a week later, moved northwards, but it was nowhere near crossed on land. And also at the same time, we had Hurricane Chris. It was a Category 2 hurricane, so it was the strongest out of the 5 so far. But luckily, it occurred across most of the out of the land, so they were okay on that storm. It started July 6th, ended on July 12th. This one was an interesting one. It actually formed, well, the low pressure formed near Bermuda, so in a low pressure circulation, and we know some activity was occurring across the Gulf Stream. It located off the coast of North Carolina, and we know the strength of the depression was slow due to circulation being aglond. So we know Tropical Storm Chris was formed around on July 8th, although it was forecast strength to hurricane the following day. So we know that moved northwards, intensified to a Category 2 hurricane. It was across, not far off from the coast of New York, across the eastern Atlantic, and it moved all the way towards the north, completely dodging the east coast, and went across pretty much close to Greenland and Iceland and stuff. The UK didn't seem to have any ball runs with remnants of strong winds and heavy rain, as we had a jet stream pushing northwards across that, so pretty much lifted the storm across Greenland and Iceland. And after a couple of weeks' absence, Tropical Storm Debbie occurred from August 7th to August 9th. Very, very brief storm, only lasted for 3 days. Peak was 50 miles per hour, 85 kilometers, with only a minute maximum in peak of intensity. And intensity was 1,000 millibars. It was completely off the land on the storm, and it was a very small one. So it was fully tropical on August 8th, where we had increasing winds of 45 to 50, but with ocean temperatures quickly dropped afterwards, so that was a very short-lived storm. The latest one was Tropical Storm Ernesto, I think that's how you describe it, and once again, completely off land. It was just formed across the eastern Atlantic from 15th to the 18th of August. Maximum peak winds was 45 miles per hour, 75 kilometers in around a minute, something like that. The intensity was 999 millibars, and like I said, it was a couple of 100 miles, or just under 100 miles, again away from the east coast. It formed around the northern Atlantic. We know it came to Tropical Ernesto. August 16th was a fully tropical storm. The following day it began accelerating towards the northeast. Our system was caught up in a jet stream. The remnants of Ernesto impacted Ireland, the United Kingdom, on August the 19th, but it was just heavy rain and strong winds. Another reason why there might not be much storms this fall in autumn is because of the Gulf Stream. Ocean temperatures, across parts of the Gulf of Mexico and across the Atlantic Ocean, some parts of the ocean temperatures are at least 1 to 2 degrees above the normal. But we know with warm ocean activities, with cooler conditions across other parts of the ocean, it's making it challenging for, the lift and the temperature difference for hurricanes to, really intensify. Because normally in Africa, they have the warmest parts of the ocean temperature there, and that's because it flows in from a westerly direction, and of course it follows in with Atlantic and probably mainly parts of the Atlantic Ocean. It follows an upward trend where temperatures have to be above 26 degrees Celsius. Temperatures like near Africa or somewhere, were a few degrees below the normal for the time of the year. So that's why there's been fewer storms, and this trend might likely to continue for the rest of fall. But there will still be that one strong storm that could potentially form somewhere across, depending on the jet stream conditions and depending on the winds from around the world and whereabouts the weather systems are coming from. It might be likely to be around October time, late September, that potentially a hurricane may be intensifying with Category 3 or above. Could affect somewhere across parts of the United States, possibly Florida again as well. But the details are still open to question, but that's what we think at the moment. That's it for this video. Weather Hub TV will give you another update about it, so make sure you subscribe to his channel, and that's all I've got the information from at the moment. So we have 5 storms. We may get a bit more, but it's likely to be much quieter now than previously predicted because of the ocean temperatures. I'll find out more for you guys soon. Okay, like, comment, subscribe. More videos to come soon. storms out.